I hit Rockfin, but I was late. I think we're online now. Good morning, all. Welcome to the show. Welcome to a beautiful Wednesday. It is gorgeous here. I can hear myself slur. So we're good to go. Melanie has reminded me to hit Rockfin, and I did. So we should be good. We should be good to go to talk about this is episode something. Poptarts and something. Man, I've already forgot. Perfect now. Great. Okay. Yeah. Today, chemtrails, of course. Man, you guys are you guys are in for something today. Maybe not. I don't know. It's warm today. Don't have a hat on. Been wearing a hat for 5 days. Been inside a lot, doing a lot of computer stuff. We began production of the movie this week. After the audiobooks were sort of like done. There's more audiobooks coming. Last year I wrote a screenplay called The Hidden Hand, the story of Amu Baraka. And if you're a patron, you've probably you've either read that or you joined and you haven't seen the post yet that reminds you, hey, here's James' screenplay. But you know that story sort of encompasses the overarching theme of eclipses signaling the end of an era and a new aperture begins. And when I wrote this screenplay, I did not write it from this will be on the screen and we will make a movie. I've heard about Hollywood. I've met people from Hollywood. Anyone in Hollywood actually has to be in a union. You probably know that, but maybe you don't. Even if you want to work in Hollywood, you have to be a communist. You have to subscribe to the idea that man is weak alone, and that he must form a hive, and that only through the hive may man express himself, his needs, and to express himself outside the hive is man degrading himself. It's this really weird psychology. In fact, that is in my audiobook, Blueprints of Mind Control, the chapter on the anatomy of Satanism, which is now out on audio and audiobook, and you could download that today. Some of you are like, yeah, you could download it and read it, then return it. And I just want you to know, you could do that. It doesn't actually help me. It actually says, yeah, returns. It shows me how many people return the book too. And that's good feedback. But hey, do what you want, because it's Audible's actually product. I'm just glad to be jumping into the world of audio books. Great. So, we've begun production. And the reason why I'm so excited about this is, first of all, we've begun production, but as I said, I didn't expect this to be made into a movie. In fact, our good friend Brent showed that to one of his producer friends, and he read it and looked at Brent and said, that's the most anti-Semitic thing I've ever read. And he was from Hollywood, and which was fascinating to hear that. And then someone else read it, Tiffany Fitzhenry actually, and she seemed to really like it, but she was very cautionary about what it takes to get something produced in Hollywood. And again, I was more writing it because I'd never written a screenplay, and I was just enjoying the theater. When you're painting with words, it's completely different furniture than when you're painting a screenplay. It's the all the imagineering that you did as a child is really unlocked to you as a writer. It's one of the secret superpowers in the world. I don't know why more don't do that. I think it's because a lot of people don't read anymore, which sounds like I'm scolding you, which actually kind of fits into our topic about morality, because me being a writer then saying people don't really read anymore is sort of me pulling some prana. There's a little bit of prana that's coming to me. Oh, I could feel it. I could feel it in the way that I elevated myself just then in that way. And this is actually what I want to get to. I'm just rambling on about the screenplay at the beginning. But if you want to help produce the screenplay, if you want to read the screenplay, if you want to watch... the most important thing is I don't need Hollywood. Don't need it. My background in the 3D world, when I used to be able to hold down a corporate job, I was designing 3D things for like trade shows and whatnot. Mostly it was like corporate church. That EMC, the company EMC, would have a gathering in Las Vegas, a Hajj. It's a modern day Hajj, and all the priests from all the different schools, all the different outfits along the corporate monasteries come to this Hajj in Las Vegas. Duran Duran was there. They played. And you walk around the room, and basically all the companies, all the corporate offices spend money on words. It's just words. It's giant $35,000 to put a word on a screen and to have that word look a certain color with a certain tone that matches the Pantone precision numbers, that matches the corporate book, that the style guide. And that this is the scripture of today. This is the logos of today. Logos, right? It's the quest for there must be something right, and if I have it and I can tell it and no one else has it, I get that same thing James did by saying not a lot of people read. You get that feeling of prana because now you're better than someone to say, yeah, well, George Orwell was secretly a underground spy who's an evil Luciferian who ate children's faces off. What you're doing is you're peeing on someone else's hero who's put out work that's maybe helped you see the way, but someone else knows that because you praise that person that they can piss on that person and feel that same kind of uppityness. That's a prana economy, something that we talk about a lot here. I know. I will not stop talking about it. Stop. Don't you shut your mouth there, Bob, who's like, you need to stop talking. No, I'm just kidding. This economy that we feel, most of us don't want to be honest about. We're like, oh, I'd never do that. I'd never go to the dog park and say in a louder voice, oh, he's a rescue. Ha 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 ha. That's an example of that. Oh, he's a rescue. That's the exact same thing that's happening. And that we just corporatize this stuff. And when you walk into Vegas, it's $60,000, $128,000 for this little booth, this 20 by 20 space of illusion. And when each corporate office comes in to see this corporate office's illusion, they either feel better or worse at the job they're doing by rebranding the message of EMC. And that message is usually something really dumb and gay, like evolve, evolve. Conflatiform. Okay, that was never a word, but like coagulate, like that. All of a sudden they'd wake up and be like, yeah, this industry, this quarter, it's about coagulation. And that we need to coagulate our numbers and find a coagulational tangent where we can meet our vector goals and surmise at an intersection that brings forth the most acute angles that have ever been seen in this industry. And that the hypotenuse of those rhombi, of which we have all gathered around in this polygonal structure that we have here, will formulate a new kind of evolution that will carry us through to the third quarter and bring us salvation, i.e. victory. We met our numbers as the gods are pleased. And I'm putting pause there because I want that to ring, because I need you to understand that the same superficiality that expresses itself in the religion of corporate America, and that really is the religion. Where is your worship? We talk about this all the time. Your worship is in what you do. So what you do all day would be your church, not the fashion that you claim will be your church for 1 hour on Sunday. If anything, that would be probably the least thing that you worship all week, would be church. Because you're only there once a week. You're only on Sunday, and you're only there because there's a prescribed time on the sandwich board. And the sandwich board says, Jesus loves vaccines too. And then church service, 10:30 to 11:30. That's all the morality you need, that when you drive by, because you go to that church once an hour, you feel that effervescence, that halls of mentholyptus, that feeling, that stringent feeling of spirituality. And it cleanses you. And we pretend like none of us really have that need for cleansing. In fact, we treat it in a very superficial way. But if you followed my work, or if you look back at history, or done both, you see that actually this desire to cleanse ourselves is like been a really big deal for like a really long ass time. Like a long ass time. In fact, that desire to be clean was a matter of life and death, that people would die so that someone else could feel clean, and that we still have that exact same fetish happening right now. The entire thing is still in play. We've certainly gotten better. You can see progress. But the truth of the matter is that we're pretending to not pretend about this one thing that we want, but we're superficially treating it like it's this other thing. We're claiming one church is the church that we have, when actually there's this other church that we really, really do sacrifice more to. That we will leave our morality at the door when we go into that corporate atmosphere, because the position, the fashion, we've been named an acolyte of human resources. We've been named an acolyte of acquisitions. We've named an acolyte of new development. And at the moment we put on that hat, our morality basically kind of turns us into a pope or a judge. That we basically get to do whatever we want at that point, because we are living in the morality of this apparatus. Now, that apparatus is what all of us call morality right now. That we all get up and we say, well, yes, he's a moral man. And if you were to ingest what that means, it's like, because he goes to church on Sunday, because he pays his mortgage, because he keeps his lawn clean, he never has his trash cans out, he's a moral man. And I don't have a problem with us doing this, as long as we understand that society itself, by pretending to have this notion of morality, is actually immoral. Society itself is committing immorality by not being honest about what church is, about not being honest about what worship really means, right? All of those things point out the hypocrisy of who we are. But the most hypocritical things that we have are the very things that make us feel moral in each other's eyes. And there's the rub, isn't it? That's really, if we were to call this a problem, that would be the crux of it. Well, why can't we call this a problem, Gene? It's because it's helping us. That this hypocritical behavior is helping us. And Poptarts and Chemtrails are here to get you to start following your own path of morality. And that some of you will notice that you have enough plasma, you won't help it. You've reached that green step and you're starting to simulate other people's matrix. And you're starting to gather what makes other people actually tick. And you're noticing that they're saying, oh, well, he's a rescue dog. And they might have bought that from a breeder. They may not have. They might have actually gone to a pet store and rescued that dog. I'm not even saying if you have a pet, you're immoral. This is the problem that Poptarts and Chemtrails are going to help us on. Because you see, every moral act that you're told someone has done, you don't know if that's moral or not. That you've been built up and sold this idea by very, very lazy people that don't want to do math. These are people that don't want to balance their chronic checkbook, and they simply want a code. They want something written in a book. They need those training wheels as a guide for them to show them morality. They're too confused by anything else. They need a system of commandments that's easy to carry. Something that would fit on all their fingers is about the extent that that mind's box can go. And this is that kind of morality. And you can live inside that morality and be a very moral person. That's very, very possible. And you can live inside that morality and be a very immoral person. That is just as possible. And when people start to realize that that box that they're thinking inside actually isn't a box, they get very angry. They get angry because they don't want to balance their checkbook. Who wants to do that? And they do what I do, which is just simply hope that you can stay enough ahead with your currency to where you just never have to balance your checkbook again. You don't really have to worry about it. And staying ahead of that is where Poptarts and Chemtrails come in. That we spend most of our time applying our calories to a moral front. And by doing that, we are abandoning the calories that we could be applying to morality. Which shows you that even the quest for morality, this is going to be hard for some of you. Back up, take the General Lee, just trust me. Back up about 200 yards, go past the barn, and come at that point again, because you're going to need a lot of speed to make it over this gulch. Some of you guys aren't going to make it. You're going to be like that Jim Bob guy, or Owen, or whoever, and just freaking the fuck out over this. But you're going to need a lot of speed if you're going to make it over this jump. That the essence of morality, the quest for morality, is itself immoral. You extroverting your actions in such a way to gather the pollen of morality around you is spiritual usury. You are usurping that prana from everyone around you by demonstrating morality regardless of whether morality was actually there. My dog does the same thing. Before I feed my dog has to go outside and then walk back inside. His meal will taste better if he feels like he's earned that food. It doesn't matter that he didn't go on a walk. It doesn't matter that he didn't pee. None of that matters. What matters is that he realizes that utilizing the fashion of this room, namely the rubber dog door, that in 3 seconds he can make his food taste better by logging in some morality points with his dad. And he knows that that's a manipulation that will either work or it won't work. He gets a lot of treats that way all the time. Even when he's doing it and it's obvious, I will still reward him because I'm an idiot. And that society itself runs on that dog trick. That entire trick is what has run most of corporate America. You're seeing that now with Pride Month. You're seeing that now with everyone get vaccinated. You're seeing that now with thank you for your service. You're seeing that now with, oh, look at the sacrifice those nurses are making. That even you bequeathing morality to someone else is you usurping morality from those around you because they will see, oh, look how caring this person must be. I want you to not stop feigning morality or stop even acting on your morality. This is not about you changing your behavior. This is about you just being more honest with your true prana economy and what energy really means. Because I would reckon that even though I'm telling you here that there are things that in popular culture you think would make you feel or be able to feel like you're a moral person, and that are not the case, that just like there are those, that there's good news here too, that there are many things that you do that you have no idea how much morality you were able to siphon into that action. And no one sees it. No one hears about it. You tell no one. And that those moments are the moments you forget. And that those moments are the moments where you're truly mining gold. Why do you forget them? Because you were too busy mining gold. You're not the person that wants to show everyone what a great gold miner you are. You're the person that's got your nose deep in that hole and you're pulling out the gold. You've reached deep into the heart of the earth where it's pressured and cold and no one's witnessing you. And you've found things there. And this turns morality completely around because it changes it from a popularity contest. It changes it from an American Idol situation. Because right now, morality is a reality show called American Idol, and we distribute that to each other. We decide which of us is more or less moral. And most of our moral decisions, the most moral ones you'll ever do, are probably going to be underground. I'm not saying that morality means do things underground. I'm telling you that the morality is truly expressed when you're the only one there to witness it. That's a sacred act you're doing for yourself. That you're not coming to church because it's 10 o'clock on Sunday. And ask yourself, if you go to church at 10 o'clock on Sunday, are you going because you were morally called? Or are you going because they told you that church morality is bequeathed from 10 a.m. until 11 a.m.? And that if you were to show up early and if you were to show up late to that church, you would miss your communion with morality. Now, if that is truly the case, and I think that it is for anyone, this is not about bashing church, but again, if you think it is, you're probably already pissed because you didn't make that first go. You didn't make that jump. I get it. Put in the comments. I'm sorry you can't dislike. I hate that you can't dislike. I hate you can't hit thumbs down and say, screw you. I'm sorry. I hate that. I think we'll put I'll tag a comment after the show that says if you don't like this video and because YouTube took away the dislikes, you can like this comment and it will be interpreted by me as you hated this video. I'll do that because we need these systems. Because there's real morality there and you're not getting yourself credit for that. You're not feeding yourself for that. And you're draining yourself from all the fake morality you're having to distribute just so the hyenas won't smell you out. That's the reason why. The real church is where you are every day. The real church is where you would go regardless of the appointment. What is it you do that needs no prompting from anyone else? Needs no paycheck, needs no salvation, needs no social morality score. What is it that you do personally? That's your church. And you need to be honest with that. What are the things that you do that requires no one else's prompting, witness, suggestions, or reward from? And I would argue that most of us, I'm talking about even most of us, meaning the people that don't listen to this show mostly too, don't actually ever have that ever. That since the time you've been grown up, you've been surrounded by cows that have never done that. And even now, still have not. And you stop seeing these people in third grade and you assume that they grew up. But they didn't. And you know they didn't because you're looking at the same kind of candy matrix of morality. Chet. You guys remember Chet? If you don't know who Chet is, it's okay. You're not supposed to know Chet. Chet's been working out. Chet's been buying Bitcoin and working out. Chet's been going to the gym, working out, buying Bitcoin. The Bitcoin gave him enough prana to where he suddenly had more plasma to spend. And he started spending that plasma on himself, on his body. He started improving his health. And as he's improving his health, he started noticing things that he was doing with his life that maybe weren't so kosher. That even though he thought that he had loved himself this whole time, that actually as he's been analyzing his behavior, he's been noticing his church, he sees that actually he has it. That Chet has this addiction to Pop-Tarts. And before Chet had this money, Chet never had the calories to even consider that Pop-Tarts were bad, because honestly, that was one of the few things that Chet would spend money on that would make him feel good. Believe it or not, Chet was practicing morality by buying himself Pop-Tarts. It's true. That Chet was looking out for himself because he believed in the petrodollar and it kept failing him. He kept thinking that this idea that all of us would have a popularity contest and out of every single person that entered, we'll only have two parties, and that those two parties will decide which of us won the popularity contest, and the winner of the popularity contest gets to print as much money as they want and pass whatever the laws they want. We're going to all call that democracy. The Chet finally started to simulate out of that, started to notice that voting isn't moral anymore. But when he had that appetite, the Pop-Tarts that Chet was buying himself was actually the only act of self-love that Chet even had all week. It's a sacred ceremony. He'd buy them at Friday night. Chet was watching old reruns of Miami Vice. He found a 4chan channel that had a back copy of it, and he's watching Michael Tubbs, man, and Philip Michael Thomas, and, cruising around. You can feel it in the air tonight. And eating Pop-Tarts. And no one sees that because that's his church. And when he's at that church, he loves himself. Chet loves himself. And now, thanks to fucking Bitcoin, he doesn't feel the joy anymore. In fact, he feels kind of bad that he's stealing Miami Vice. Why? Because he's got this weird thing with Edward James Olmos, and he feels like that Edward James Olmos, he's screwing him because he's not paying for Miami Vice. It's hard to explain, but that's where Chet's at. That's where Chet's level of morality is at. He's starting to question the morality of downloading Miami Vice from 4chan. He's still going to do it, but he's questioning it. And the Pop-Tarts don't seem to work anymore. They don't. Now, Ethereum triples in a month, and now Chet's just like, fuck, man, I got all this extra energy and oomph. And he feels this pride because he wasn't listening to the bullshit. And he was like, no, I've looked into this token. I've looked into how Ethereum works. Fuck, all these NFTs are blowing up. All those are Ethereum-based. Jesus, how could I not get into this? And Jesus is like, dude, keep me out of Bitcoin. He's like, sorry, I can't help. He's like, I don't know. It happens all the time. This process starts to change, Chet. His entire matrix flips. And Chet goes out and buys a Scirocco. Buys a Volkswagen Scirocco. It's an old car, but it's this forest green Scirocco, and it was something he always wanted as a kid. Not a very good car, not exactly expensive car, but it made Chet happy. He started expressing this self-love. And he buys that Scirocco, and boom, he blows the engine. So, Ethereum goes up, so he gets a new engine, he puts it in there, and then he tries to drive carefully. He realizes that it's really just a 4-speed, and the word Scirocco is kind of like not even the right word for what this thing is. So, he cleans out his kitchen, and he takes 3 boxes of Pop-Tarts, and he puts them in his car, and he's driving downtown, and he passes a homeless guy. And he rolls down the window, and he says, hey, here. And he gives him Pop-Tarts. Now, Chet was actually going to throw those Pop-Tarts away. He was going to throw him away, but on his way, he saw this homeless person. He thought, oh, I'll give him to that. That's even perfect. That's better. That's so much better. And the whole time, Chet was ashamed of these Pop-Tarts by now. The chronic feelings that he had from them were of self-failure and denial, that he'd been living off these things for years, and that he realized now, only now, he realized that they were a poison in his life, which is why he was wanting to throw them away. And he cursed these Pop-Tarts as a symbol of all that kept him in the gutter before. But now he was on this all-fruit diet, and everything was different. So the question for you is Chet committing morality by giving those Pop-Tarts to the homeless person? I'd love to see what you think in the comments. I don't know, sometimes the chat's way behind, so it may not even work. But I'd love to hear what you think in the comments about that. I'm not trying to pull comments. I'm like, if you're in the chat and you want to do this, if you would write in the comments, great. But I want you to think about that. Is Chet practicing morality by giving those Pop-Tarts to a homeless guy? Keep in mind, he just cursed them and called them the source of his slavery. Now, if you're an extrovert, if you bought into this idea that morality is distributed in a church from 10:30 to 11:30, the moment those Pop-Tarts leave your car and go out in public where they're seen, and the moment that they're handed to the homeless guy, who takes them, by the way, he does take them, and he says thank you. He even says thank you. Ask yourself, is that morality? Ask yourself, is that morality? Premium Paranoia says that's not moral. That is Mephisto. That was a Mephisto. Are they soaked in vodka? Stop playing, Chad. You're going to get an F on this course if you keep screwing up. Pop-Tarts can set you on the path to fruits. All right, Justin. So see, Justin's trying to justify that. No, it's a good one. Making himself feel better, says Joe M. Don't you need a toaster for Pop-Tarts, says Ma. Yeah. Catherine says it's neither moral or immoral. That's fascinating. As you start to unravel the true prana economy of that entire exchange, if you have the calories to simulate enough, you notice right away, and tell me if you agree or disagree with this, but you notice right away that even the matrix, even the formula, the thermodynamic equation of what is moral here is not that easy. That the distribution of diabetic grenades, it may not be moral, but it may be moral. That there were times when those Pop-Tarts served Chet, not Chad. There were times when this thing, sorry I was rough on you, Chad. There were times when this was served Chet. These Pop-Tarts served him, and there were times when they were immoral, when they were detrimental to him. And the moment when he gave those Pop-Tarts to the homeless man was the same moment that he knew that these were poison to me. Now, I think that the most naive answer that anyone could ever come up with, and hopefully no one said this in the comments, is absolutely, no matter what, every single time, this is either moral or immoral. That I hope the exercise of this is showing you that, fuck, that's more complicated than I had thought about. And what you're learning is growth. You're learning to take off your training wheels and actually experience morality in its pure, raw form. These intersections where we're met with opportunities for potlatch and morality are not supposed to be solved, and they're not supposed to have an answer. They're supposed to be decrypted by you. That's all. That the entire purpose of that is to occult that mining operation in you. That you are here to render those triangles and to solve that equation to determine what is moral and what is not. And that's why you're here. You're not here to take an invisible test. And if at the end, if you get all the answers right, you succeed. That's not learning anything. That's not. That's not even obedience. It's like obedience through fortune telling. And in order to be that kind of moral person, you would have to evacuate yourself and literally just become nothing but obsessed with approval. And if you're obsessed with approval, you're obedient, you're not moral. These are different things. Very, very different things. Very different matrix. Keith, is it moral to give what you have abundance of? He's asking Teeth there. It's a great question. Is that moral? We hear all the time how generous Oprah Winfrey is because she gives everyone a car. Is that a moral decision? Oprah picked out a car for everyone, decided here's what you need. You need this 2-seater. And it's coming out of my production budget, the budget we use on this show, that we're opening the season by giving everyone a car. Look under your seat. Is that a generous person? Are you generous because you have a lot of money and you give a percentage of that away? Is that generous? The homeless guy takes the bag of Pop-Tarts. The box of Pop-Tarts. He walks for 4 blocks. He's only got 1 shoe. Someone stole his fucking shoe. He's got 1 shoe. He takes his 4 boxes of Pop-Tarts and he walks 4 blocks to find Ruth. And he finds Ruth in the gutter where she always is, behind the Chinese restaurant. He finds her. And he walks up to Ruth and he knocks on her box. He's like, "Good morning, Ruth. I have a birthday gift for you. I know your birthday was yesterday." And he gives her a box of those Pop-Tarts. Is that homeless guy moral or immoral? Now, hopefully that tugs your prana strings and you're like, "Oh my God, that was the sweetest thing ever." Hopefully you see that the secretion of morality is so much more obvious in a situation like that. But the tokens are the same, the furniture is the same, every single thing's the same. So this notion of objective morality is literal bullshit. It's posing for fame. It's posing for virtue. It's virtue signaling, but on the right. That's all. It's just on the right. That this system, this prana economy, is invisible precisely because it needs to be. Because our morality is a gift that we give ourselves. I know that it seemed like that guy benefits because now Ruth sees him as a good person, and that's very valid. But I didn't tell you that Ruth has Alzheimer's, and that he tells her every day it was her birthday yesterday. Why? Because it's the only thing that seems to keep her identity. That he notices by reminding her that she was born yesterday and that she had a birthday, that excitement, for whatever reason, trips out just the right synapses in her mind to where she can remember that her fucking name was Ruth. And when you start to look back, you realize that he knocks on that cardboard box as many days as he can to remind Ruth of who she is, of her identity. And you start to watch the prana economy unfold, and I think it becomes, after a while, impossible to track, that you really can't tell. And you end up with discussions like we had in that Telegram group. There's a Telegram group. Someone will probably post a chat in there, but a link in the chat. But where you're even looking at So a soldier goes to Afghanistan. He's committing immoral behavior because he's invading the sovereignty of another nation. But as soon as he lands on the ground, he's committing morality by interacting with the villagers in a personal way. But that morality is also overridden by the immorality because the villagers themselves have no choice but to be nice to these soldiers because, holy fuck, they just fell out of the sky and they have a lot of machinery that kills people. And that you start to see that the ping pong ball or the pinball is just going all over the place as you start to unwrap that. And it's supposed to unwrap that way because morality is a personal dimension. And that some of us are spelunkers. We will go deep into the Sheols of morality, and others will remain on the surface. At 10:30 a.m. on Sunday, if you come here, we will distribute morality to you until 11:30. But if you stay longer, if you leave your car in the parking lot overnight, anyone driving by will say, well, why did you leave his car there? He must have some problems. Something's going on at home. He didn't look very happy at church. And then you enter into that kind of system. This is why I warn us so much about the labels like Luciferian and all the other shit we talk about. Because when you find a Luciferian, you are able to morally piss on them and say, ha, I'm better than you. Why am I better than you? Because for me to piss on you, I would physically have to be higher. It's just the laws of thermopissing, right? I'm going to piss on you. I'm going to have to be higher up than you are right now. Therefore, if I piss on you, I will feel higher. It's the exact same matrix that runs every single system. It's why you go to Las Vegas, because your corporation paid you to see a giant 4-story tall word. And it's Helvetica bold. Like, it's not even that impressive. But Duran Duran's playing, so let's all get drunk. It's a different kind of morality. And those people look at taking jabs as moral, don't they? Why? Because at 10:30 today, this truck's showing up. And on the parking lot, they're giving away boosters. And this is what Rome did. Rome didn't care what God you worshipped. Stop listening to people who tell you that shit. Rome did not care. All that mattered to them was, were you practicing the fashion of the day, the religio. Religion, the very, very first recorded use of the word religion was religio by Cicero. And he described that religion was not the belief in God, that religion was the proper action in front of others, that it was the crudest Stone Age definition of table manners, and that religio was always a cultural adaptation. And there's morality in adapting to culture, it's true. That there's a morality in taking your hat off when you enter a building. I know we don't do that anymore, but there's a morality to taking your shoes off. If you know those are the rules of the house. That even the societal fashions and culture that we play for each other does secrete morality to you, because this is how we forge trust with each other. That we, even though we've never met, can trust each other because we both see a hint of civilization in our activity, in our rituals. That if someone takes off their hat, you know right away, even though you've never met them, I have so much in common with that person. And it's true, you really do. You've both been through the same indoctrination. It's no different, though, than binding of feet, is it? That the Chinese girl that has her feet bound, who meets another Chinese girl that has his feet bound, that those two instantly have a connection, a trauma bond, and that trauma bond might actually be a societal norm, which means that trauma bond isn't even trauma. It's something much more twisted in Stockholm. It's so much deeper than that, and that deepness, that deep, rich, holy fuck, so your foot's being bound and you're culturally now successful. Oh God, that muck, that's the bayou of your morals. That is the wet sludge of that wetland. and the truth of what morality really is. That underneath there's a fucking manatee and you will never see him. He's just like, oh, I am the king of morals. And I don't know where this analogy is going. But there's goodness there, but it's not something that you're going to be able to tangibly pull up and separate from those crystal springs and say, this is the moral thing. And if you look like a manatee, you are therefore moral. And I think if you act like a manatee, you're going to find they're very moral creatures. Those dudes are some of the most moral cats I've ever seen. Really, really chill. Love lettuce. Freaking love it. Iceberg lettuce. Don't give them spinach. They'll eat spinach, but they really like iceberg lettuce. So, how does this get us to chemtrails? Fuck, right? How does this get us to chemtrails? Well, here's how. I know that it's more popular to say, we know they're evil because there's chemtrails. And I have no issues with anyone thinking it's evil. I know we talk about that, but I'm just hoping to provide some chiropractic for those of you who have started to realize thinking things evil is kind of like me finding comfort in Poptarts. That this whole comfort thing that I derive, right, from this sugary diabetic bullshit is the exact same thing I have when I feel like, well, that person is completely a Luciferian immoral guy because they don't go to church on Sunday. It's the exact same fucking thing. And that those training wheels will work for you unless something horrible happens, which is you find yourself with more energy. That God forbid you find yourself like me one day, all of a sudden you're like, holy shit, I have more plasma. None of that's going to work anymore. Then I'm not going to be able to drive around distributing Pop-Tarts out of my T-Bird because suddenly I'm a moral person now because I got a raise on Bitcoin. That is bullshit. And that the only place that'll get you to is the Church of Oprah. She literally has a church. And there's nothing wrong with that because people need that. They will build their entire practice off of that. And this shows you how poor our education system is because some of you guys might be thinking, wow, James, this is like a whole new idea. And it's not. It's called American philosophy. It's called utilitarianism. It's called pragmatism. A gentleman by the name of William James wrote probably 70% of this. I don't know what the percentage is because I don't know. But you're looking at a different connection to the world. And that connection is through nature, not anti-nature. That before that, the connection was, well, you have to leave nature. As soon as you extrapolate yourself and enter this building at 10:30 where there's no nature, inside we'll distribute morality because we can't be passing around morality with all this nature around. And then you end up with this false notion of something called unnatural. And we walk around using the word unnatural like it's a real word. And it's literally insanity. It's disassociation. It's the game of tag, you're it. That's what unnatural means. It's like running around the yard going, you're it, you're it. You're unnatural, you're unnatural, you're natural. How can something natural be unnatural? What kind of amazing feats? How powerful are you that you can defy God and suddenly do something that he wasn't expecting you would do? It's like, God, stupidity is only surpassed by our grandiosity. It's amazing, right? That those two things can be used in tandem, but that's what happens under Stockholm. You end up with a situation like that. And if you are surrounded by these people in this world, like you are, and if you've been watching them for generation after generation, cut the genitals of their boy to prove how moral they are to their neighbors, you're watching that shit. You're watching them burn herbalists. You're watching them poke hot fire up the ass of people that will not say a certain phrase, that will not regurgitate a certain sentence. You start to realize that not only are there no Luciferians running this thing, but that the people that are actually here complaining about the Luciferians are the most dangerous animals on the planet. That it is the very ones that are obsessed with finding salvation through the persecution of something else that is the real source of what we might be calling evil in the world. That the most immoral thing I can see around me is always wrapped inside a person who's telling me about how moral they are, whether through energy or through words. And that every single time, that's what you see. That behind the curtain, it's never the American psycho who's just like, yeah, I like to fuck because I'm evil. That it's always some shit who's saying, you're evil, and you're evil, and you're evil, and we're going to burn you, and we're going to cut you, and we're going to jab you, and we're going to shoot you, and we're going to convert you, and we're going to crusade you. That is the immoral act. That those are the immoral people. And if you did the math, and if you were like Chet and you invested in Ethereum back in the 16th century, you guys didn't know you could do that, but you could. You could buy Ethereum in the 16th century. I'm making that up now, but let's just say you could. That you would have enough extra calories where you would start to look around and go, fuck, this place is insane. And you'd realize that you're surrounded by hyenas, that the entire world is suffocated with hyenas. And you're seeing inside those hyenas these poor innocent giraffes who don't even know that there's something called a giraffe. They just think they're hyenas with long necks. And you're watching these innocent giraffes being slaughtered under these false ideals, these giant words in Helvetica Bold that are placed in Las Vegas while Duran Duran sings. And you're looking at the giraffes and you're like, it would fucking be amazing if we could have more giraffes around here. Giraffes are like awesome. And that you too, even you, would show up for a Dead Poets Society meeting where we meet in a cave. We would meet in a fucking cave. We'd have to, because of how insane these people are. We'd wait for people to go to church, and then we'd go meet in that cave because we knew that would be the one place where we could talk and they wouldn't be there because they'd be so afraid they'd burn in hell if they missed church. And you and me would meet in that cave and we'd have discussions about morality and fucking Pop-Tarts is what we'd do. And we'd realize really quick what morality is, how personal it is, how much of a personal decision it is. And we'd start to look around and we'd say, what about the giraffes? What are we going to do about the giraffes? And Sark would be in the corner. The only one to have enough balls to go, you know, I've got an idea. And everyone's like, well, what's your idea? And he's like, chemtrails. Everyone's like, you want to poison the world, Sark? No. I want to create an Easter egg for giraffes. I want to create a breeding program where hyenas can be promoted to giraffes. And this breeding program is going to have to be archetypal. We're not going to be able to have a school. We're not going to be able to have a flyer because anyone obedient would then become a giraffe. We don't want obedience. We want people that are willing to stick their necks out and see the entire vista. We're looking for people that are willing to visualize the entire Serengeti. And that we can help them by giving them more energy, by showing them at just the right time that Pop-Tarts are not the only fruit here. And that the system that the hyenas are running, there are others out there that know it's wrong. And these chemtrails are going to make hyenas look up in the sky and say, holy fuck. People are trying to poison us. And that chemtrails would be the most cheapest, most effective form of advertising you could ever have to alert people that government is bad. And that if you were a lion and you wanted to raise more giraffes, you've tried slaughtering all the hyenas before. You felt like shit for a long time, and then you even miss the hyenas. You're like, well, shit, we kind of need hyenas. It's like an important thing because if no one's a hyena, no one wants to raise above. No one wants to be a giraffe. So we need hyenas. But we also need this support system, this climbing trellis for giraffes. And so we will leave them Easter eggs, clues that they will know that government is not real, and that they will know that there are other giraffes out there that see beyond government too, but also know that society itself needs this faulty government, that needs these Pop-Tarts. Because if we did not have these Pop-Tarts, these hyenas would tear each other apart. And the only way we make more giraffes is by nurturing these hyenas. Not killing them, but by nurturing them with data. And that every day we're going to have a sky plane come by that says, Pop-Tarts are bad, okay? Pop-Tarts are bad, okay? And that most of the hyenas wouldn't work. Some of the hyenas would be like, they're trying to kill us by telling everybody Pop-Tarts are bad. And only a very small few of those hyenas that had a long enough neck, only a very small few would say, holy fuck. These people can afford a plane. These people are running government. And they're skywriting about how fucked up government is. And they're skywriting not at night. They're skywriting during the day. That they're waiting for the clearest day in the world that they can to broadcast their message that Pop-Tarts are bad, okay? And that if you were dealing with a true anarchy, a true jungle, that the only way you would communicate with these people is not through words, not through a pamphlet, not through a 1030 service, is that simply showcasing what's happening. That would do more good than anything else would. But Sark, you're going to scare the shit out of all the hyenas. And Sark's like, yeah. The dudes that are running around with needles, that are cutting their kids' genitals, that are burning herbalists, we are going to scare them, and it is going to be a moral decision. And the morality will not be found in those hyenas. It will not be acquired by those hyenas. And those hyenas will rightfully go about their lives feeling that we are immoral because we are lying to them about Pop-Tarts in the sky. I am willing to take that, says Sark. Why? Because I have enough currency. I can make that sacrifice because I want to see more motherfucking giraffes on roller skates out here. That we need more giraffes. And the more we tell people what this jungle really is and how it works, the more giraffes will stick their neck out and go, oh, man, that's a lot better than this whole stupid theory that everyone's a Luciferian. And a flower just opened. It just opened. And some of you are going to take this, if you made it over the gulch somehow, or if you Dukes of Hazzard, they had like 116 General Lees, so maybe you have another one and you took the pass and now you're here and you're like, so you're just saying that no one's evil and everyone in government's good. Then it's like, yeah, go back to the gulch, dude. You're not going to see this. You're not. Yeah, these people have tried killing the hyenas and they noticed that actually the hyenas are helping. That the shitbags running around distributing Pop-Tarts, pretending that's government health care, that they are teaching just as much as we are with our skywriting. That the worse these people are, the more shit show it is, the more wrestling it is. Let's 250 million people choose 2 people. That if you narrow it down and make it that ridiculous and even worse, that you would finally be breeding a greenhouse that's put up or shut up. That Columbia herself would choose this sort of an atmosphere to expose these young saplings, these young giraffes, to the burning, burning light. And she would know that the giraffes, who were truly giraffes, could take it. And the hyenas that were truly hyenas would step off as fast as they can. And that this mitosis would be such a great work that it would pierce society right down individually through the living room of every single family and divide us clearly into giraffes and hyena. And that this would serve as something even more profound than chemtrails. even more profound than Building 7. Why, when they were in charge of the media and they're Luciferians, why did they take down the World Trade Center so early in the morning? Were they on record? The amount of people they claimed were in that building was impossible to ever be that low. That building saw 50,000 visitors a day. And that at 8:26 in the morning, there were only 2,000. That only 2,000 people in New York decided they were going to show up for work. The most driven, most expensive place in the world, the most cutthroat financial district in the world, the most famous cutthroat financial building in the world, and all of those people were late to work that day. And that Building 7 is a Pop-Tart in the sky. And they didn't have to show you that. They didn't have to show you that. They didn't. But they did. And the purpose of asking, what about Building 7, is yes. You're welcome. The answer to what about Building 7 is you're welcome. That's the answer. That there are people just like you, who if you woke up tomorrow and you suddenly had trillions of dollars at your disposal, or if your family had billions of dollars and you were suddenly woken up, just like all of us are in the Great Awakening, that you would hang out in a cave with people like Sark and go, that's the craziest fucking idea I've ever heard. By the way, I got these plague masks on sale from Halloween. Yeah, Big Lots. Look at all these plague masks. I got an idea. And that the fault and the folly of the military-industrial complex has been shown over and over again. That the Taliban fucking clown show is running circles around you, blowing horns as they come out of their clown car, showing you the ridiculous folly of the American military there. That the chemtrails, that Building 7, that every fucking story, that Joe Biden, Cobra Commander himself, wearing a mask, is showing you, showing the giraffes, how ridiculous it is and the mitosis is complete. Because it would be impossible for someone of the caliber of Sark, for someone of the caliber of any giraffe, to look at Cobra Commander and say, yeah, that's real. And no, Biden isn't in on it. Guys, hyenas don't have to be in on it. They're already fucking hyenas. And it's funny because you're telling me that I'm saying the world isn't evil when I'm explaining to you that it's overrun with hyenas. But this is a different version of evil because this is a compassionating thing. These are hyenas. They're living creatures. They're living creatures that have a certain prana economy because that's the budget they have established for them. They're not evil. They're not giraffes. That's it. That's all they are, is not giraffes. But if you have this notion that morality is when everyone agrees that that's moral, you will never be able to warn the hyenas, because even warning the hyenas is taking their Pop-Tarts away. And that's when you start to come in with this Jim Bob bullshit where it's just like, oh, you don't fucking understand morality because you took our Pop-Tarts away. And if you take Pop-Tarts away, that means you're immoral. And you end up on that slippery slope and you're never coming out. Why? Because they don't want you to come out. Because that pit is lazy as fuck. And the more they dig that pit, the deeper it goes, which means the harder it is for them to get out. And that is Dante's Inferno right there. You're looking at the very essence of what this is. What is that dude's name? Sarnak. Look it up. Sarnak. The creature in the desert, Jabba's creature. And that every time you go deeper in there, you're passing another ring of barbed wire, of barbs, right? That every time you sink deeper into this, it gets harder and harder and harder to come out. What is a booster? The moment you take a booster, you admit you're not vaccinated. The moment you take a booster. But you don't know that because you're looking at this other kind of morality, the one that doesn't exist. And you're looking at this other kind of evil that's been painted for you by, ironically, Hollywood, that tells you that evil goes to the gym. That tells you that evil raises its children with love and care, and that evil has a moral code. You realize how fucking retarded that is to hear people tell me, well, the Luciferians, they have this moral code that they follow because, they don't want to defy God. And I'm like, well, you fucknut. Wouldn't that make them moral? Like, wouldn't that make them moral? If they were following a moral code because they didn't want to defy God, what the fuck are you talking about? It's time to get up. It is time to stop watching that shit and start to understand that if you want to understand morality, you're going to have to burn some calories. And you're not going to agree. You're not. That the morality that I distribute is not the same morality that you distribute. I worked at a wildlife center for maybe a decade. And I can't call myself a volunteer because if I did, all I'd be doing was sucking the juice out of the air, the virtue out of the air. I wasn't a volunteer. I was paid handsomely. How? I got to hold animals that no one gets to hold. I had a raptor license, one of the few in the country where you're allowed to physically possess a raptor in your car. I'd take these raptors to schools or to events, and I'd explain things to people that no one had ever heard about a raptor and how they work, how they eat, how they hunt, what they do. I was paid handsomely for that. I wasn't volunteering. I wasn't doing a moral thing. I was learning about anatomy. I was learning what a raptor is. I was learning about wildlife in an intimate way. I was learning how to rescue them. I was banking prana for myself later. And I think that you'll find that as you start to unwrap what morality really is, you start to notice that morality has nothing at all to do with whether someone is happy with you or not. That the most moral decisions a parent will make will lead that child into tears, painful tears. And that is because of those tears, which is exactly showing you how much morality that parent is willing to secrete for their child. That the parent that says, no, you can have another Pop-Tart is the parent that says, if you go to church on Sunday at 10:30 until 11:30, they will distribute morality for you, and you can go around telling everyone else how evil they are, or how Luciferian they are, or how fucking wrong they are about their cosmology of the earth because they reject the Ten Commandments, or whatever kind of bullshit you want to hear. You're looking at that virtue pissing, which is that if I pee on you, I must be taller than you. And that's not morality, that's survival. These are different things, but there's a Maslow's pyramid, and I think that you find that after food, clothing, shelter, morality becomes a food, clothing, shelter. But before food, clothing, shelter, morality is not in food, clothing, shelter because self-preservation is your morality. Self-preservation is the most moral thing you can do. But we're told the greater good means that you would deny yourself and even annihilate yourself for the greater good. So what you think morality is not what morality is, and you're never going to get credit for it. No one's going to give you prana because they agree with your morality. What's going to happen is people are going to disagree with your morality, and you're going to go back into that cave and say, I really think this is gold. I don't care. And now you're forging reality. When you look at how this world works, you look at how any engine works. And when an engine is doing its job, it's burning. Tiny explosions are happening, there's heat happening, there's stress, it's making a lot of noise. And we, being raised like veal, are under the impression that if an engine makes noise, it is being treated immorally. And so think about the pain you feel in your life. Think about the struggle and the strife you feel in your life. That maybe that pain and that struggle and that strife are simply your machine doing exactly what it came here to do, to mine morality out of all these different plasma dimensions. You are piecing together these dimensions and connecting intersections and knocking on cardboard boxes saying, hey, Ruth, happy birthday, that you are committing morality every day. And that you're the only one doing that. You are the only one doing that. That you can never assume, take, think, or believe that your neighbor might have a morality equation because you will never be able to fully see it. You won't. Your aperture has a different f-stop than theirs. what you see as moral, they are going to see as immoral, and vice versa, which is why this is your journey deep into the heart of the earth. It's not going to come through a book. Unless you wrote it down, then you can reflect on what you said. See, there are bypasses to all this stuff. Keep thinking they're evil in the world, because there's hyenas everywhere. Keep doing it. But if you put on this aperture, just switch, just like doctor's office. Is this better or is this worse? 1 or 2? 1 or 2? 1 or 2? Just keep asking which one's better. Because if you do, if you look at it this way, if you look at the dead poets meeting in a cave, coming out with plague masks and all this other stuff, that you could explain why a fake JFK assassination, Building 7, and chemtrails were all done to show you that government is mafia. And that Kennedy's was one of the few families that understood, because of their epigenetic history, that if you are going to rule a large group of people, and humanity has wanted a ruler since the day it was born, that your morality is going to be expressed much differently than what the hyena wants you to be. That your morality is going to look much more like a parent expressing its morality on its child. But we are surrounded by children that are judging our parents as bad because of the simple expression of pain we feel. That the vitriol we feel is us judging that morality. And that's not morality, that's laziness. That we are judging our own weakness, excuse me, by explaining or expressing that which causes me to be an engine, that which causes me to process and produce morality is bad because it causes me pain. And go to any gym, better yourself in any way, make any sacrifice, and you notice that the only alchemy that works in this world is sacrifice. And that morality itself is the gold that we make from doing that. All right, we'll get out of here. Before we do, eclipse is coming this week. I want you to notice how the sun is in Libra. That the communication and the war itself are all converging in this time of Libra right now. And that the Libra is the balance. It's that same mitosis. It's splitting that right down the middle. And whenever you're split like that, it's giving you a new tangent to grow, that your offshoot gets a whole new direction right now. Take that direction, forge it, find your inner giraffe, understand that lions could just as easily be renting planes, broadcasting the truth. It could be. In fact, I don't see another way how they could communicate. Because if you put out a government mandate or a government document and you mandate everyone reads it and the mandate says government is bad, people will still vote for that. They won't get that. That you're talking to hyenas. And the only way you're ever going to communicate with anybody is by looking for the giraffes. It's the only way. Do you know how much courage it takes to stick your neck up higher than a hyena? This is a very painful mitosis, and I hope more of our brethren make it. And they're not going to make it by you convincing them that there's this evil circle of Luciferians that are running this whole thing and that their entire job is to lie to you. Do you realize that when you truly look at things through this aperture, that you could even recognize NASA as being, holy fuck, that's like a giant hermetic sign of, yes, it's all bullshit. Not only is it all bullshit, James, but I want you to see how $55 million a day can be extracted through bullshit, James. And if you understand that that's how NASA works and that look at how everyone cucks to it and worships it, then you have to see that that is the exact same thing in the military and the exact same thing in medicine. And funny enough, but all of us know that now. And why? Because of Building 7, because of chemtrails, because of JFK. because of Wayne Sexton. Rethink your position because you will find more energy. And if you're a giraffe, you will want more energy. If you're a hyena, you won't. And so when you're watching people shoot these ideas down without like actually having something to shoot it down, I want you to imagine that you're watching a hyena that doesn't want to stick his neck out. And that's why it's harder to come up on this green step, baby. Red step's right there. Yellow step's right there. Fear, anger has tons of giants waiting to comfort you there. They're waiting. They're like, come to our church. We will show you how to be angry. We will show you the ice road trucker and how all the horrible things are going to happen and how you're all going to burn and suffer. Ha ha ha. That is a giant mosh pit of hyenas masturbating on each other. And there's a big draw for that. Could be one of the reasons why I have a smaller audience. It could be because charismatically I'm just defunct. Hey, that's very possible. But it could be that the reason why I have a smaller audience up here on this green step is because we filtered out the yellow and we filtered out the red. And those people aren't going to make it up here because their neck's too high. Hurts too much. They will come eventually. And I won't be here. It'll be someone else. Why? Because I will be on another step by then, hopefully. Right? I'll be somewhere else. And my morality will change. And I'll have a completely different vista to look at things too. Because there's never been a right answer. The right answer is that hypothetical demon that you start to believe in. Right? Most of your demons, most of your energy is lost in hypotheticals. You gain a lot too there. It's a very magical world. Anyway, thanks for being here. We'll see you next time. Friday. Yeah.